Hello. Hello. Today I want to discuss this topic. Before that, in a previous class, I mentioned that what is nozzle. So nozzle is a device in which working fluid, pressure of the working fluid is converted into kinetic energy to get a higher velocity. That means nozzles is generally used to increase the velocity of a fluid. So today, just I want to consider the turbine. So what is turbine? So turbine is a prime mover which produces work. Okay, and just I want to draw a turbine. A schematic diagram will be drawn here. So this is your schematic diagram of a turbine. And this is inlet section of the turbine, an outlet section here. Shaft is there, and shaft is coupling with the generator here. This is your generator, and this is your outer structure of the turbine. So sometimes it is called casing of the turbine. So casing of the turbine here. This is casing of the turbine which is fixed. Casing. And if we consider a steam turbine, so obviously working fluid is steam, and steam is generated in the boiler, and that steam enters into the turbine as shown in figure here. So this is the inlet section of the turbine, and pressure of the steam is there very high. So that pressure is the boiler pressure. Say P1 is the pressure here, or you can say here this is your state point 1, and another state point here, that is your 2. So to obtain the energy balance, so we have to consider a control volume. This is your control volume, and this is your control surface here. So dotted line has been used here uh, to denote the control volume. And steam here enters into the turbine, which is high pressure, and steam is flowing in this direction. This is the axial direction of the turbine. So it's flowing in the axial direction. When steam moves in the axial direction, then so expansion of steam takes place. Expansion of steam takes place. Actually, in the turbines, so many nozzles are there, as well as so many blades. So blades are attached to the rotor, and rotor is mounted on the shaft, and nozzles are attached to the casing, which is fixed. And when steam flows through the moving blade nozzles, moving blades, then what will happen? The change of momentum takes place. As a result, a torque will develop on the rotor or on the blades. As blades are attached to the rotor, and rotor is mounted on the shaft. So as a result, so shaft will rotate. As a result, shaft will rotate, and if shaft is rotating or shaft rotates, then what will happen? So shaft is attached to the generator. So generator will also rotate. So finally, for the rotation of generator, so power will produce or electricity will produce. So that is the main things here. So inside the turbines, so blades are nozzles are there. So nozzles are attached to the casing. When steam flows through the nozzle, then velocity of the steam increases, and that high velocity steam enters into the moving blade passage. And when the steam is flowing through the moving blade passage, then the change in momentum takes place. As a result, torque will develop on the blades, and blades are attached to the rotor. and rotor is mounted on the shaft. As a result, shaft will rotate. And finally, if shaft rotates, shaft is connected with the, or shaft is coupling with the generator, then generator will rotate, and for the rotation of generator, so electricity will produce. Now here, this is your inlet section of the steam, and in the axial direction, so steam pressure gradually reduces, and here the exit section of the steam, and this is your the minimum pressure of the steam, so that pressure is called the condenser pressure. Now steam enters into the condenser where steam is condensed, okay, and so exit pressure should be the condenser pressure, and inlet pressure should be the boiler pressure here. So boiler pressure. So work is produced here. Say that work is the turbine work. The WT here can be denoted by WT. That is your turbine work. And then just I want to write the steady flow energy equation. So obviously we should consider the first law of thermodynamics, and energy entering the control volume, that should be equal to energy leaving the control volume. So that energy balance will be considered here to write the to establish the steady flow energy equation of the turbine. Now here turbine, so casing, so possibility is there to heat exchange between the turbine and surrounding. Obviously steam is entering into the turbine, so steam pressure, steam temperature is very high, and surrounding temperature is the surrounding temperature, so temperature difference is there. For the temperature difference, so heat transfer should be there. To avoid the heat transfer, so we can assume that the casing is insulated. Casing of the turbine is insulated. So that means here, so you can consider insulation on the casing of the turbine, so that there will be no heat exchange between turbine and surrounding. So this is your insulation or insulating material is attached to this casing, so that there is no heat exchange between the turbine and surrounding. Okay. So if heat exchange takes place, obviously your development of power or turbine power will be reduced. To minimize that, this insulation can be made. Now from the first law of thermodynamics, what we can write here? So energy entering the control volume, that should be equal to energy leaving the control volume. So it is simple way to write the steady flow energy equation. So inlet section, that is your section 1 here. So this is your 1 section, and this is your 2 section, and energy balance is required. That balance can be made by using the first law of thermodynamics. Therefore here from the first law of thermodynamics, so energy entering, so steam is flowing, so obviously steam energy is there, so internal energy, flow energy, so every energy should be considered here. But for the analysis of turbine, we generally neglect the kinetic and potential energy. So kinetic and potential energy is very small here compared to other energy. We generally neglect the kinetic energy and potential energy. So therefore here, so energy entering the control volume, that is equal to, say, mass flow rate of the turbine, that should be m dot, mass flow rate of steam here or working fluid, that is equal to m dot. So m dot into here at the inlet section entering, energy entering, so that should be here m dot into, say, internal energy, that is your specific internal energy at the inlet section of the working fluid, that is your steam here. So U1 plus flow energy is also there. So pressure into volume here, particularly specific volume should be considered because mass flow rate has m dot has been taken here. So pressure at the inlet, say P1 is the pressure at the inlet, and specific volume of the working fluid at the inlet, that is V1. So E1 plus P1 V1 plus you can write first initially the your kinetic energy and potential energy. So that should be here half of say velocity at the inlet capital V1 square plus say that term here that is Z1 at the inlet. So G into Z1 here. So that part. So if there is heat exchange takes place, so between the turbine and system, then we just consider here say that heat, say here Q dot is the heat transfer rate here. So that heat is transferred to the turbine from the what from the surrounding. So that Q dot, so because here Q dot positive has been taken, so energy entering the control volume, that is your Q dot, and that should be equal to energy leaving the control volume. So under steady state situation, mass flow rate m dot remains same, so that is m dot here into at the exit here at the state point 2, your internal energy is U2 plus flow energy say P2 V2 pressure P2 at this outlet section. Okay, so at the outlet section pressure is P2 and specific volume is V2, and kinetic energy again we can write here say velocity at the exit at state point 2 half V T square plus potential energy G Z2 here, Z2 is the datum head, and then turbine produces work that is equal to W2 here. So work done by the turbine. So work done by the system. So W2 is a positive quantity. Obviously, this is energy leaving the control column. So using this balance, it is a very simple way to express the energy equation. And I already mentioned that generally we neglect the kinetic energy and potential energy when we analyze the turbine uh, uh, analysis. So when we analyze turbine, then what will happen? We generally neglect the kinetic energy and potential energy. Therefore, we can neglect these things: kinetic energy and potential energy, and here also this and this. Then so already we have assumed that there is no heat transfer from the casing to the surrounding, so insulation has been made. So we can consider here Q equal to 0. So this term equal to 0. So therefore here you can write these things after uh, deleting all these things. Then m dot is there. So we know that U1 plus P1 V1. So that is your enthalpy at state point 1, and U2 plus P2 V2, that is another enthalpy at state point 2. So here we write here say E1 plus P1 V1, that is enthalpy 1 at state point, and m dot. So just we can write in this way. So that should be equal to say m2, sorry, H2, that is enthalpy at state point 2 plus turbine work divided by m dot here. So uh, therefore here, so turbine work can be written in this way. So Wt per kg of mass flow rate of steam or working fluid, that is your turbine work, that should be equal to H1 minus H2. So that means turbine will develop power at the expense of energy, at the expense of working fluid energy or energy of working fluid. So at the expense of energy of working fluid. So that is your turbine. So simple way it is possible to write. So this is a very simple equation. So simple equation has been obtained here. Now from practical point of view, what we can discuss here from practical point of view. So you know, steam turbine generator is there. So obviously different types of turbines are there. Different types. So turbine can be classified on the basis of principle of operation. On the basis of principle of operation, we can classify the turbine. So it is two types. That is uh, uh, impulse turbine and reaction turbine. So data here. Okay, so this is your equation. So it is a very simple equation. So simple equation, simple mathematical expression has been written here. So that is the steady flow energy equation of a turbine. Now, from practical point of view, so you have to know something about turbine. So turbine can be classified on the basis of principle of operation. So that is uh, it has two types. Turbine has two types based on principle of operation. So that is one or A here, impulse turbine. Impulse turbine, and B, that is impulse reaction turbine. Impulse reaction turbine. Impulse reaction turbine and impulse turbine. Actually, what is impulse turbine? So turbine actually consists of nozzles and blades. Consists of inside the turbine. So nozzles are there as well as blades. So nozzles and blades are there inside the turbine. So in case of impulse turbine, so there will be no pressure difference when steam is flowing through the moving blade passage. So there is no pressure difference inside the moving blade passage in case of impulse turbine. And impulse reaction turbine, so when steam is flowing through the moving blade passage, so pressure decreases as a result. So velocity of steam increases when steam is flowing through a moving blade passage. The relative velocity of steam will be increased due to the expense of pressure or due to the decrease in pressure. So that means impulse reaction turbine, the pressure in the moving blade passage changes or decreases along the flow direction. In case of impulse turbine, so pressure does not vary. Pressure remains constant when steam is flowing through moving blade passage. So you have to remember that moving blade passage, not nozzles. So nozzles always, when steam flows through nozzle, so pressure decreases always. So that is the main difference between impulse and reaction turbine. And impulse turbine is further classified. So simple impulse turbine, sometimes it is called D-level turbine. So here simple impulse turbine, simple impulse. Simple impulse, or sometimes it is called D-level turbine, D-E-L-A-V-A-L. So D-level turbine means simplest turbine. It is a simplest turbine. Only one row of moving blade is there. If power requirement is very small, in that case, this type of turbine has been used. So simple impulse turbine, it is the simplest turbine, it is smallest turbine. Okay. If the development of power requirement is very less, in that case, this type of turbine can be used. And sometimes it is also called D-level turbine. So another naming is also there, D-level nozzle. So that is convergent divergent nozzle. That is different issue. So here D-level turbine or simple impulse turbine. So impulse turbine can further be classified into three categories. That is first category, that is simple impulse or D-level turbine, and the second one, that is velocity compounding turbine here, or sometimes it is called Curtis turbine. So velocity compounding turbine, velocity here, velocity compounding. Velocity compounding turbine, and it is also called, so naming is there, particular naming, Curtis turbine. This is Curtis, C-U probably R-T-I-I-S, Curtis turbine. Curtis turbine here. So just trying to give the uh, uh, basic idea. So I do not want to go in details. Then the third one, that is pressure compounding impulse turbine. Pressure compounding. And this turbine is also called Raku turbine. Pressure compounding. Pressure compounding turbine, or sometimes it is called Raku. R-A-T-E-A-U. Raku turbine. So impulse turbine can be further classified into three categories, or uh, um, or you can say four categories, depending upon the situation. So simple impulse turbine should be there, velocity compound should be there, pressure compounding should be there, and pressure velocity, combination of pressure and velocity, that is another type may be possible. So combination of pressure and velocity. So another type is also possible, that is combination of pressure and velocity. And here impulse reaction turbine, so it is very popular turbine in industry. This type turbine is used, impulse reaction turbine, specifically Parsons turbine. So Parsons turbine has been used in industry. So here, Parsons turbine you can write here, or sometimes it is called 50% reaction turbine. So Parsons turbine. Parsons turbine, impulse reaction turbine, or any other. Actually, impulse and reaction. So two forces are there: impulse force and reaction force. So combination of these two. So impulse force value and reaction force value. If these two are equal, impulse force and reaction force, then it is called 50% reaction turbine, and it is called Parsons turbine. Parsons, and it means 50% reaction. Sometimes it is called half degree reaction turbine. So many naming is there. So here Parsons turbine, impulse reaction turbine, or any other. So combination of impulse and reaction, any other type. So maybe 70% impulse, 30% reaction, that is one type. 60% impulse, say 40% reaction, that is another type. Say 10% impulse, 90% reaction. So that means so many types are possible here in case of impulse reaction turbine. But in practical situation in industry, this type Parsons turbine has been commonly used. So advantages are there to use the Parsons turbine. Now, second topic, so steady flow energy equation of a compressor or pump, whatever. So simple, same way it is possible to write compressor or pump. For the compressor, or pump, here the schematic diagram of a compressor is like this. So in the flow direction, the flow area gradually reduces. Here. This is your compressor, and also shaft is there, and compressor is driven by motor. So obviously motor is equal, so motor drives the compressor. So here motor is there, and in this direction here, say this is inlet section of the work section of the working fluid here. So compressor means compress the fluid. So compressor is used to increase the pressure of the working fluid. So to run the compressor, so motor is necessary, or motor compressor is driven by motor, or motor drives the compressor here. So this is your motor, and again, so heat transfer may be there between the surface of the compressor to the surrounding. So temperature difference is there. So to reduce this heat transfer or to minimize the heat transfer, we can consider the insulation material or insulating material. We can consider here. And W compressor works, say WC or WP, you can denote. And then for writing the energy balance, we have to consider a control surface or control volume. And inlet section say state point 1, and outlet section say state point 2 here. That is your outlet section. This is state point 2 here. Now we make a into H2 here. So therefore, WC equal to WC by m dot, that should be equal to here H2 minus H1. So very simple expression here. So lot of assumption have been taken here to write this mathematical expression. So depending upon your problem, you have to consider whether assumptions are required or not. So generally we neglect the kinetic energy and potential energy. So this is your steady flow energy equation of a compressor. So obviously, compressor is used to increase the pressure of the working fluid or pressure of the steam or whatever. Okay. So pump or compressor principle are same. So pump or compressor are used to increase the pressure of the working fluid. Now next steady flow energy equation of a heat exchanger. Heat exchanger. Just write heat exchanger. Heat exchanger. So heat exchanger is a device in which heat exchange takes place between two fluids. So cold and hot fluid should be there. In heat exchanger, heat exchange takes place between hot and cold fluid. Okay. So from practical point of view, so many heat exchangers are there. Condenser in steam power plant, condenser is there. So condenser is also one type of heat exchanger. In refrigeration air conditioning system, so heat exchanger is also there. Condenser is there, so heat exchanger is there. So heat exchangers are widely used in practical application. So basic definition is heat exchange in heat exchanger. Heat exchange takes place between two fluids, between hot and cold fluid at hot and cold fluid. So that would be better. Anything is not required to mention because already we have mentioned hot and cold. Cold. Or you can say heat exchange takes place between two fluids at different temperatures. Now, just I am to draw a schematic diagram of a cell and tube type heat exchanger. Cell and tube. So tubes are there here. This is your tube type cell and tube type heat exchanger. So two tubes have been considered here to draw the heat exchanger, cell and tube type heat exchanger. Two tubes. And outside the tube, so area is there. So that part is called the cell side. So tube and cell heat exchanger, shell type heat exchanger here. This is your so cold fluid is flowing through the tube side to the tubes. Cold fluid is flowing here. So this is your cold fluid. Going through the tube side. or hot fluid or steam flows through the cell side. So cell side here, you just think you can draw like this. So this is your stream flows here. Stream flows to the cell side, and if it is steam, so that steam will be condensed here. So condensate steam, if it is steam here. So hot fluid means steam here. You consider steam. That means it will be a condenser, or it is a condenser. So steam is flowing through this. That is your hot fluid flowing to the cell side. So this is your cell side, and tube is this, and cold fluid is flowing through this, and so heat exchange takes place inside this heat exchanger. So as a result, cold fluid is heated up and steam is condensed. So here condensed steam is collected here. So condensed steam here collected. So that is your liquid here, or water. Water. Now here you can write the name of the heat exchanger, that is tube and cell heat exchanger you can write, or cell and tube heat exchanger written here. Cell, SHELL hyphen and tube heat exchanger. Heat exchanger. Specifically, so actually 1, 2, 3 cell and 2 tube heat exchanger. 3 cell and 2 tube pass heat exchanger. 3 cell pass, 2 tube pass. Specifically, if you want to say. So 3 cell pass and 2 tube pass heat exchanger. Better, okay, no problem. If you write this cell and tube heat exchanger, tube type heat exchanger, or heat exchanger, whatever. So that is your one state point here. And just to make an energy balance, we have to consider a control volume. The control volume is this. And in order to give the inlet condition like this, that will be better here if we draw this inlet situation. This is your inlet section. Say this one state point here, or control volume here. Control volume. In similar way, we can draw here another outlet section of the cold fluid. That is your outlet section of the cold fluid here. So state point, cold fluid. State point here, you can say, you can give say state point 1. This is your one state point, and cold fluid outlet. You can give say state point 2 here, which is state point 2, and hot fluid inlet, say the state point is 3, and hot fluid outlet here, the state point is say 4. So this is one state point, two state point, 3 and 4. So energy balance, I think it is very simple. So using first law of thermodynamics, what we have to draw this. Tubes are there, through tubes, cold fluid is flowing, and cold fluid takes heat from the hot fluid. As a result, takes cold fluid temperature increases. And on the other hand, hot fluids from the hot fluids, so heat transfer takes place to the cold fluid. As a result, hot fluid temperature decreases. And finally, your hot fluid is steam, so steam will be condensed, and condensate or water has been collected. Now from the energy balance here, what we can write, so very simple here to make an energy balance. So very simple. So from the first law of thermodynamics, so energy entering the control volume, that should be equal to energy leaving the control volume. And here you can write, say, cold fluid mass flow rate, that is equal to say MC m suffix c dot, and hot fluid mass flow rate or steam here. So mass flow rate here, say m dot suffix h. That is your mass flow rate, and that mass flow rate is also possible to determine with the cross section is known. So mc dot from the continuity equation, we can write here m dot c, that should be equal to from the continuity equation. So if the area at section 1 is known, say area cross sectional area is A at section 1 A suffix 1. So A suffix 1 into velocity is known, velocity of cold fluid is known, then we can easily determine the mass flow rate of cold fluid using the mass balance equation or continuity equation. So that is very simple because it is a one-dimensional flow. If it is two-dimensional, then difficulty arises. As it is one-dimensional, so m dot c equal to a1 into velocity of cold fluid, so at the inlet. So that is your velocity, say v1 at the inlet, divided by specific volume of the cold fluid at the inlet, say v1 here. So that is your mass flow rate. So if these three parameters are known, then we can easily determine the mass flow rate. So if in your problem, if A1 is given, velocity at the inlet is given, specific volume at the inlet of the cold fluid is given, then we can easily determine the mass flow rate. So similar fashion, so here using the continuity equation, it is possible to determine the mass flow rate of hot fluid. So that should be here m dot into h, that should be equal to, say again here area or sectional area. So this is your state point 3. So a suffix 3 you can consider here, a3 into velocity at state point 3, say v3 divided by specific volume v3, or obviously here v3 is the hot fluid velocity at state point 3, and small v3 is the specific volume of hot fluid or steam at state point 3. Okay, so in this way it is possible to determine the mass flow rate. If mass flow rates are known, then we can make the energy balance by using the first law of thermodynamics, or according to first law of thermodynamics, that is energy entering the control volume, that should be the energy leaving the control volume. So it is very simple. Here what you can write, the steady flow energy equation of a heat exchanger, that should be here m dot c, energy entering the control volume, that should be here m dot into suffix c, that is mass flow rate of cold fluid, into here say enthalpy of cold fluid at state point 1, so enthalpy H. So state point 1 say H1 or H1 you consider. So obviously it is a cold fluid enthalpy, cold fluids. So H1 is the enthalpy at state point 1 of cold fluid. So that should be there H1, or you can give notation. So what notation you can consider here? So for the cold fluid you consider here, say suffix C you can consider, or simply you write, say state point 1 means cold fluid, so enthalpy this is, and H1 only you write. So H1 MC into H1, then means in this expression, so internal energy and flow energies are there. So using this internal energy and flow energy, enthalpy has been written. So H1, and neglect the kinetic energy and potential energy. So this energy entering the control volume, and so your surface here again. So insulation should be considered. Insulation, and for the insulation there will be no heat transfer. So insulation should be considered here. So there will be no heat transfer from the heat exchanger to the surrounding. Similarly here, insulation has been used and been attached. So there will be no heat exchange between the system and surrounding. So Q dot equal to 0 here. So therefore, MC H1, that is energy entering into the control volume for the motion of the cold fluid, or for the cold fluid, plus for the hot fluid. So another energy is there. So that is m dot H, that is mass flow rate of hot fluid, into say H3. H3 is the enthalpy of hot fluid at state point 3. So these two energy are entering into the control volume, and this is a rigid structure, no work will develop. So therefore W should be 0 here. So W should be 0. So therefore here that should be equal to energy leaving the heat exchanger. So that should be here, say m dot C into here state point 2, here H2, plus dot H into say state point here H4. Okay, so this energy balance has been made here, or we can write here, say m dot C into here H1 minus H2, that should be equal to m dot H into H4 minus H3. Okay, so this equation can be considered, or this is your steady state steady flow energy equation of a heat exchanger. Acha, any problem regarding this heat exchanger? And this is cell and tube type heat exchanger. Now we can consider here a heat engine. That is very important here. So heat engine system, heat engine. You know, heat engine, boiler is there. So boiler and furnace. So this is your boiler. This is your boiler, and heat is transferred to the boiler from the furnace to form steam. And that steam is going through this and then enters into the turbine here. So turbine is there. This is your turbine. Generator. So expansion takes place here. Then steam will be condensed here. Turbine. So turbine, you know, uh, produces, develops power or work. So that is your turbine work. And furnace is here. Furnace. Different types of furnace are there. Oil fire furnace, electric fire furnace. So many types. Coal fire furnace. So many types are there. So this is boiler. So in the boiler, steam is produced here at high pressure and temperature. At high pressure and temperature, steam is produced, and that steam goes to the turbine, and steam works on a rotor and it results, you know, turbine produces work. Turbine produces work, and then steam uh, uh, um, here discharges from the turbine, and that steam enters into the condenser. So condenser is there. So maybe condenser shape may be like this. You can draw this. This is condenser. Is a one type of heat exchanger here, and cold fluid, hot fluid is there. So this is your cold fluid inlet and cold fluid outlet. Cold fluid. So during condensation, so heat should be rejected here. So heat is released, or condenser rejects heat. So that heat may be, say, Q2 heat. The condenser rejects its Q2. Then the pump is there after that. So that pump is called boiler feed pump. Boiler feed pump. This is boiler feed pump, and just connect this. So obviously here, so these two pressures are there. So boiler pressure and here condenser pressure. So generally condenser pressure is below the surrounding pressure or atmospheric pressure. So condenser pressure is below the atmospheric pressure, and boiler pressure above the atmospheric pressure definitely. So boiler here, heat is transferred to the boiler, or as a result, steam will be produced in the boiler. So steam will be produced at a high pressure and temperature, and that steam expands in the turbines, and turbines will produce some work. So that work is WT, and steam discharges. Then steam enters the condenser, and condensation of steam takes place by rejecting heat Q2, by rejecting heat Q2. And here boiler pump, feed pump. So this pump is used to increase the pressure of the. So here you write here, say boiler feed pump. Boiler feed pump. So this is your simplest diagram of a heat engine. So boiler feed pump here. And right. Boiler feed pump. This is condenser here. You write condenser. Condenser. And this is your turbine. Turbine. And you can write here the boiler. So feed fan, obviously electricity or power is required to drive this pump. So that power is a WP here. WP. If you draw this schematically, if you want to draw, then what is possible here or what we can draw. So you know these things, that is hot reservoirs and cold reservoirs. This is your hot reservoir, and here hot reservoir furnace is there. Say furnace here, furnace temperature is say T1, furnace temperature, that is your hot reservoir, and here temperature is T1, and from this furnace here, your heat engine receives heats or takes heat from the furnace at a rate T1 rate, and T1 amount of heat received from the furnace to the heat engine, or here you can draw like this. This is your heat engine, and bigger circle can be drawn here. Bigger circle, and it is heat engine, and just using these four components, a cycle will be completed, or I think so when energy balance is done, then we have to consider a cycle. We know that the Q net in a cycle, that should be called W net. So one cycle should be completed using four component, and here you just heat engine completes one cycle is your heat engine. It completes one cycle, and W watt work done by the heat engine, that is WT, according to your diagram. So WT is the turbine work, so which is positive, work done by the system. And another work is there, that is your compressor work. So WP, so WP is the negative. So W net here you can write. So that is your W net of the heat engine. So that should be equal to here in this case WT minus WP here. Now, condenser is there. So we know that the condenser pressure is maintained below the surrounding pressure, and temperature of the condenser is almost equal to the surrounding temperature. So here, temperature of the condenser. So here you write that is your sink or cold reservoir, and temperature of the cold reservoir is T2, and heat your heat engine rejects heats Q2 to the cold reservoir. That is your Q2 here, and here Q1, and one cycle has been formed here to get this W net. So cycle for this, you just consider here one arrow. So that is your clockwise direction. You can consider here to complete the cycle. It means complete a cycle. You just consider a clockwise direction. One arrow is required, and it is a clockwise direction. So we have to draw like this for the cycle, for the indication of cycle completed. Now Q1, that is heat, heat engine takes Q1 heat from the source, and heat engine rejects Q2 heat to the sink. So T1 and T2 are there, and WQ net equal to this, and just if you make the energy balance according to first law of thermodynamics, then it is easily possible to write in a cycle Q net equal to W net. So in a cycle Q net equal to W net, or we can say algebraic summation of Q, that should be equal to algebraic summation of W. So in this case, this turbine, condenser, pump, boiler constitute a heat engine system, and that system completes on one cycle. Okay, one cycle, and here heat engine takes heat Q1 from the source, and heat engine rejects heat Q2, and W net will perform. So that is equal to WT minus WP, and from the first law of thermodynamics, in a cycle we can write here Q net, that should be equal to W net in a cycle. So Q net equal to W net, then Q net, that should be equal to here. So if we consider this system, then what will happen here? So Q1 enters the heat engine, and Q2 leaves the heat engine. So Q net should be Q1 minus Q2. So this Q net, that should be Q1 minus Q2, Q1 minus Q2, and W net, already I have written, say WT minus WP here. So this balance has been obtained from the first law of thermodynamics, considering a cycle. So Now, if you
Sir,
if you want to write the efficiency of this system heat engine, then efficiency of the heat engine can be written of a heat engine. Net work developed in a cycle divided by heat input to the cycle. Input to the cycle. So this is your efficiency. So in a simple way, you know these things in your HS level. That is net work developed in a cycle. So that is equal to W net here, and heat input to the cycle, that is your Q1 in this case. So according to first law, so W net equal to WT minus WT here, that should be equal to Q1, and or here say Q1 minus Q2, that should be divided by Q1, so it should be 1 minus Q2 by Q1. So 1 minus Q2 by Q1. That is your efficiency, and here, so according to first law of thermodynamics, so your efficiency expression of a heat engine, that 1 minus Q2 by Q1. So there is no limitation mentioned. And in your first law of thermodynamics, no limitation is there whether Q2, Q1, Q3 0 or Q1. So is there any limitation or not? So nothing has been mentioned in first law of thermodynamics. So 1 minus Q2 by Q1 is there. Then if your engine is reversible, then we can replace Q2 and Q1 in terms of temperature. So actually here, so this efficiency, it can be denoted by eta, and that should be here 1 minus Q2 by Q1 here, and it is very simple way to say, if your all processes are reversible, then it is possible to replace Q by temperature. It is possible to replace. So we know that for reversible process, summation of for the reversible process or processes here, you can write. So summation of this Q by T, that should be Q. That should be Q. So using this concept here, so we can write here or here in this case. So Q2 is there. So Q2 by T2, that should be here Q1 by T1. So if we consider a reversible process. So therefore Q2 by Q1, that should be equal to T2 by T1. So here you can write say 1 minus T2 by T1. So if this your engine is reversible. So efficiency of heat engine for following reversible path, then expression will be 1 minus T2 by T1. Here T2 is the sink temperature in Kelvin scale, and T1 is your source temperature in Kelvin scale. So that is your efficiency, and from this efficiency, what we can say? So this efficiency is also the Carnot cycle efficiency. We know that this efficiency equals to the Carnot cycle efficiency. Okay. So in this way, it is possible to obtain the Carnot cycle efficiency. In other way, if we consider the cycle, Carnot cycle, and using all processes, we can write the efficiency of a Carnot cycle in other ways. That means, so 4 processes are there in Carnot cycle. Using 4 processes, and all processes are reversible, and using 4 processes, it is possible to write the Carnot efficiency. So this is Carnot efficiency, or using 4 processes, it is also possible to write the Carnot cycle efficiency. So I think you know these things, but just I want to derive this efficiency using 4 processes, 4 Carnot cycle processes. Reversible processes in Carnot cycle. Just I am to write the mathematical expression of efficiency of Carnot engine. So Carnot engine consists of 4 reversible processes. We know that, and from these processes we can get the efficiency, and that efficiency is the Carnot cycle efficiency. And here you can just consider this PV diagram for this. PV diagram, and you mention here that is your Carnot cycle. So all processes are reversible. Carnot cycle. So Carnot cycle consists of 4 processes. That is reversible isothermal expansion process, reversible adiabatic expansion, reversible isothermal compression, and reversible adiabatic compression. So just I am to draw these things. So that is your one state point here. Then expansion takes place isothermally and reversibly. So it is say 1, 1 to 2 here. So this is your state point here. This is your isothermal process, and process takes place in this, and expansion takes place isothermally and reversibly. And next process 2 to 3 here, that is adiabatic expansion. Adiabatically, and then compression takes place here. Compression, that is 3 to 4, isothermal compression, reversibly, and adiabatic compression reversibly here. So that is 3 to 4 and 4 to 1. So this is your Carnot cycle, and we know that efficiency of Carnot cycle is the maximum efficiency. Is the maximum efficiency. This is an ideal cycle. And using this cycle, just trying to write the efficiency. I am to write the efficiency or Carnot efficiency I have to derive. So here 1 to 2, that is the isothermal process and expansion process, and reversibly. So heat is added here. So that heat, say, that is Q1 heat is added to this system. And process 2 to 3, that is your adiabatic expansion reversibly. So as it is adiabatic, or sometimes it is called isentropic process, you know, the entropy does not change here. And in this case here, so there is no heat exchange here. So Q equal to 0 here. So Q here 0. And then process 3 to 4, this is compression process. And for this heat rejection, heat is rejected. from the system. So that is your Q2. You know these things, and here temperature does not change. So this is your temperature T2 here, and here temperature is T1. And process 421, that is your uh, reversible adiabatic compression process. So during this process, no heat transfer taken place. No heat transfer taken place. So 421, just uh, using the first law of thermodynamics in a cycle, then we can write here. So Q net, that should be equal to W net. So from the first law of thermodynamics, so these processes complete a cycle. So that means in a cycle, we know that Q net, that should be equal to W net. That should be equal to W net according to first law of thermodynamics in a cycle. So here Q net means so heat. So Q1 and Q2, only two heats are there. So Q1 heat is transferred to the system, and Q2, that is heat, is rejected from the system. So therefore Q1 is positive and Q2 is negative. So Q net, that should be equal to, here we can write say Q1 minus Q2, and W net equal to, so W, you know, um, process, for the process 1 to 2, work is performed, uh, that is your positive work, or 2 to 3, that is also positive work, and 3 to 4, so work is required to compress, and 4 to 1, so another work is required to compress. So therefore here W net should be, here we can write, or W net can be expressed in this way. So W1 to 2 plus W2 to 3 plus W3 to 4 plus W4 to 1. So that is Q1 minus Q2, that is equal to W net, and so further calculation may be necessary here if we want to uh, determine the efficiency of a Carnot engine. So already we have Q net divided by, that should be equal to W net. So efficiency equal to W net divided by heat input to the system. Uh, so W net equal to Q net, and Q net equal to Q1 minus Q2 divided by heat input to the system, that is Q1. So mathematically, okay, no problem to get this efficiency of a Carnot cycle. That should be 1 minus, again 1 minus Q2 by Q1. And if we consider that all the processes are reversible, so Q1 by T1, that should be equal to Q2 by T2. And here 1 to 2, that is your isothermal process, and process 3 to 4, that is also isothermal process. So T1 and T2 is there. So easily we can get the efficiency of a Carnot cycle, that is equal to 1 minus T2 by T1. So 1 minus T2 by T1, so it is easily to determine. But if you want to determine this work, so W12, it is a isothermal process. If it is isothermal, then what will happen here? So W, now we apply the, that should do your DU plus PdV, only PdV work is so P, here we can write to DU plus PdV. then say del Q and that should be equal to say du is your change in internal change. So d and isothermal process your entropy sorry internal energy does not change here, so your internal energy equal to 0 and therefore Q1 that should equal to what PdV, so PdV that should equal to PdV, there you can write say PdV. Here W122 that is. Now when you write this W122, then what will happen here? So again, little bit modification is required here because here PdV has been considered this mathematical expression and it is a differential form. That means integration is not integration is necessary and integration there. So here state point 1 is V1 and state point 2 volume is V2. Then we can say Q1 is V2, that should be equal W1 is there. So W2 is equal to so this to MRT, so that should be equal to M R B2 by V1, or here you write say K equal to PV, that is equal to MRT, so you can write say MR T1 ln V2 by V1. So W12 equal to MRT1 ln V2 by V1. So just I think you know these things. It is a very simple way to express, that is your W12 and mathematical expression is this. Now another one is there, so that is your adiabatic expansion process. So during this process there is no heat exchange but work is performed. So how much work will develop, that can be obtained by using the first law of thermodynamics again. So again we have to consider the first law of thermodynamics. So in that case for the process 2 to 3 you can write here for the process 2 to 3 process 2 to 3. Then, expansion process. So work develops here, and during the process, no heat exchange takes place. Therefore, from the first law of thermodynamics, so del Q, that should be equal to dU plus PdV here. Again, we can write these things PdV, capital V. And here del Q equal to 0. So definitely, if it is 0, then here dU, that should be equal to minus PdV. Okay. So if you want to determine the work develops for the process from 2 to 3, so directly, so this is one way to get one mathematical expression. And if you would like to determine the work developed for the process 2 to 3, then directly you can get this. So this is one way. This is one way. So I will do these things later. First, you just determine works for the process 2 to 3, say W2 to 3, and we know that for adiabatic process P to the power gamma equal to constant. So using this relationship, it is possible to get the work, the process 2 to 3, and that should be equal to here. Again, we have to consider the PdV work. So P into dV, and your process is 2 and process 3, and we know that P to the power gamma equal to constant. So using this P to the power gamma equal to constant, so using this, it is possible to integrate, and we get one mathematical expression for work developed during the process 2 to 3. So it will be here, if we this process 2, that means here 2 to 3, okay, or you can give dV has been mentioned here. So here you can say V2 V3, better V2 V3. And if you consider this V to the power gamma equal to constant, then using this relationship, and that constant equal to say K here, it is possible to integrate that is your part. That part is W2 to 3, that should be equal to, so K is a constant, and here volume V2 to V3, and here K is there, so K by V to the power dV divided by V to the power gamma here, and integrate this. So very simple way to get here. So K is there, so V to the power minus gamma, so 1 minus gamma divided by 1 minus gamma, and it will be here. So directly we can write here. So 1 by 1 minus gamma, and K is there. So it will be P to the power gamma equal to constant, and V is there, V to the power 1 minus gamma. So P to the power gamma. So that means PV, P3 V3 here. So first term will be P3 V3 minus P to V2, minus P to V2. This is your expression. So W2 to 3, 1 by 1 minus gamma P to V2 minus sorry, here P3 V3. This is P3 V3. P3 V3 minus P to V2. Then it is okay. So directly it is possible to get this work developed during the process 2 to 3, and process 2 to 3. So there is no heat exchange. So we can write here. So du equal to minus PdV. This expression is also valid. This expression is also valid here. So dq equal to minus PdV here. So minus PdV, and expression is this. So PdV expression is like this, and whatever, or you can expand here in this way. So du equal to what? Du, that is equal to Cv into dt here. So du equal to Cv into dt, and PdV is there. So using the ideal gas law, so it is possible to get some expression, and it will be here. Um, if we consider this expression in this way, so del Q equal to du plus PdV, and del Q equal to 0, that means du equal to minus P equal to, we know that is Cv into dt here, and that should be equal to minus PdV. So where Cv is the heat capacity, not specific heat here. So in this case, constant volume. So M is also here. So M into Cv, that means specific heat at constant pressure into M is M. So that is equal to capital C into V, that is heat capacity at a constant volume. So Cv into dt, that should be equal to, and here V is the volume. V is the volume, not specific volume, so V is the volume. So Cv dt equal to minus PdV. Then what here we can write? We know that from the ideal gas law, so PV equal to AR. We know these things. So therefore, if we use this, you combine these two equations, then what will happen? So P can be replaced by using MRT by V, and here dt is there. So just you can write here, combining these two we have. So you can write, combining these two we have Cv. Cv is a constant term. So then dt is there, dt divided by t, that should be equal to minus n is there, nr, so p is there, so rt minus n into r is there, into dv by v, into dv by v here. This is your expression. So therefore here nr minus nr dv by v, that is your now it is possible to integrate it, and you know process 2 to 3 here. So here the temperature is T1, that means your temperature here T1, and at the state point your temperature is T2. Step by state point 3, temperature is T2. And MR, and your initial volume is V2, and 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 your final volume here, that is V3. So therefore here so we can write here, that is Cv into ln. So if we integrate, that should be ln T2 by T1. So ln T2 by T1, ln T2 by T1 here, and that should be equal to nr. So negative sign is there, nr ln V3 by V2. So negative sign you consider here, the negative sign is there, and ln V2 by V1. Ln, sorry, here V3 by V2. V3 by V2. So that means, you know, So T2, which is smaller than T1, or you can express here, that is CV ln T1 by T2. That should be equal to, just we want to remove this negative sign, and it will be positive. It will be positive. So n into R ln V3 by V2. This is your expression. So this relationship has been obtained here. This relationship has been obtained for the process 223. For the process 223, this relationship has been obtained. Now for the process 421, this is also arithmetic computation process 421. So for the process 421, so another relationship may be possible to obtain. So for the process 421, that is your arithmetic compression process and obviously reversible process. Arithmetic compression uh, reversibly. So that is the process, and during the process, so heat does not change, heat transfer is zero. So again, similar way, it is possible to write similar way. So that should be del Q equal to 0, this process, and again we can write here du, that is equal to minus PdV. Du equal to minus PdV, and your integration limit here. So that is a process 421, and better you just write d equal to similar pattern cv into dt. Then we have to give the integration symbol here. So cv into dt here you write, that should be equal to minus p into dt, and you give this integration from process 421, that means 4 temperature is T2 and 1 temperature is T1, and here your volume is V4 to V1 here. Then similar way it is obtained, that can be written. So CB into integration T2 by T1 and Vt divided by T is there obviously, and that should be equal to minus M into R into dV. So integration volume V4 take to volume V1. So V1 into dV by V. And finally here, finally for the process 421, we have obtained, or we can get this mathematical expression, that is CV ln T1 by T2. So no problem. So CV ln T1 by T2, that should be equal to, so in R, so negative symbol is there, so we can get this ln V4 by V1. So ln V4 by V1. Okay. So that means already we have obtained the CV ln T1 by T2, that should be equal to, or that is equal to in R ln V3 by V2. So this expression has already been derived. And another way, for the process 421, another expression has been obtained, CV ln T1 T1 by T2, that should be equal to MR ln V4 by V3. So therefore, you just we concentrate on these two equations. Then suppose this equation is 1 and this is 2. So using 1 and 2, what we can write here? So this term should be equal to this term, or combining equation 1 and 2 here. Combining equation 1 and 2, we have V3 by V2, that should be equal to V3 by V2, that should be equal to V4 by V1. V4 by V1 here. So that means V3 by V2, that means V3 by V4. Similar way here we can write, say V3 by V4 and should be equal to V2 by V1. So this relationship has been obtained here for the process adiabatic expansion and adiabatic compression for these two processes. So using these two processes, adiabatic expansion and adiabatic compression, we have obtained this volume at state point 3 divided by volume at state point 4, that should be equal to volume at state point 2 divided by volume at state point 1. So this relationship has been obtained. Now Q1, that is equal to, so Q1 expression, this is an isothermal process, and Q1 equal to mathematical expression. Already that mathematical expression has been obtained. Q1 mathematical expression, that is equal to, so du, so change in internal energy, that is equal to 0, and it is a PdV work. So PdV work, and here say V2 to V1 and PdV here, and P equal to nRT, the constant term, so RT by V. So that is here, these things equal to, already this mathematical expression has been derived, but I have forgotten the expression. That's why again I have to write this expression Q1. So Q1 equal to V2 by V1. So into PdV, and that should be equal to nRT. So it is a constant term, that is Q1, and ln V2 by V1, ln V2 by V1. Yeah, this is your Q1. So similar fashion, Q2, that should be here. So this is Q2. Q2 equal to, again, say a positive value of Q2, that should be here, say volume V4 to volume V3 here into PdV, and that should be equal to nRT2 ln V3 by V4, V3 by V4 here. So this is your Q1, Q2. Therefore, using this Q1, Q2, it is possible to express the efficiency of the Carnot mean, and that should be equal to here 1 minus Q2 by Q1. That is your mathematical expression of efficiency of Carnot mean, and that should be equal to here 1 minus Q2 means this expression n R T2 ln V3 by V4, V3 by V4 here is divided by n R Q1 into a lane V2 by V1, V2 by V1. And we know that V3 by V1 that should be equal to V2 by V1. So V3 by V1 that should be equal to V2 by V1. So these cancel out, V1 cancel out. So it is 1 minus T2 by T1. So in this way, it is possible to get this efficiency of a Carnot engine. So that is equal to 1 minus T2 by T1 here. So that is your efficiency. Carnot engine. Okay, so actually, so that is the maximum efficiency. Scandium engine gives the maximum efficiency. So conditions are there. So all processes are reversible. That is one condition. And another condition. So four processes are there. Two processes are and two processes are reversible arithmetic processes. So, using Carnot cycle, it is possible to get a maximum efficiency, and that efficiency is the ideal efficiency. And sometimes it is necessary to know or to compare between actual efficiency and Carnot cycle efficiency. If actual efficiency is closer to the Carnot cycle efficiency, then we can say our engine runs or engine gives better performance. So Carnot efficiency is very important here to know. That is the maximum efficiency. That is the benchmark. Benchmark. We cannot get that efficiency. If actual engine gives closer to that, then we can say your actual engine is a better engine. Now, just thinking in immediate. So, first law of thermodynamics, that is in a cycle, Q net, that should be equal to W net. So that means law of conservation of energy has been given or has been obtained from the first law of thermodynamics. So limitation is there. So limitation is there. So simplest way we can explain we can explain in a simple way that what limitation is there for limitation is there in first law of thermodynamics. So that is Q1 heat is taken from a source. Q1 heat is taken from a source by the engine and Q2 heat is rejected from the engine and W net is performed here. That is your W net and it is Q2 and your sink temperature is T2. So from the efficiency expression, we know that again W net that should be divided by heat input to the system Q1, so 1 minus Q2 by Q1. So mathematically we can say so Q2 equal to 0, so there is no problem. If we assume Q2 equal to 0, if it is 0, then your efficiency becomes 100%. So our efficiency equal to 1. So that is not possible in practical situation. So whether Q2 and Q1, so Q1 equal to 0 from the first law of thermodynamics, if thermodynamics does not give any idea about Q1 and Q2. So whatever value you can consider that will be applicable in case if we apply we consider the first of thermodynamics, but here if we consider Q2 equal to 0, then your efficiency equal to 100%. So that is not possible in practical situation. We cannot get on machine that machine runs with 100% efficiency. So therefore, this is one limitation of first law of thermodynamics, and using this, one machine has been mentioned. So that machine is the perpetual motion machine of the second time. For perpetual motion machine of the second time, so Q2 equal to 0. So in this case, Q2 equal to 0 and W net equal to Q1. So this is your perpetual motion machine of the second time. So it is, these things, EM2, this machine. This machine is not possible to in practical situation. In practical application, this machine cannot be possible to construct. Okay, so this limitation is there. So definitely, so as limitation is there, so it is needed to investigate another law, and second law will come or has come to remove this difficulty in first law analysis. So second law has come, and two statements have been given there. So in a brief way, just I am to mention that so Kelvin Planck statement and Clausius statement. So today time is 8. Okay. So next day I will start. Hey, hello.
Yes, sir.
হ্যাঁ বলো, তোমাদের কিছু ডিফিকাল্টি আছে? কিছু ডিফিকাল্টি? এনি প্রবলেম, এনিথিং? নেক্সট ডে কি ক্লাস হবে তো?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, বলছি যে আমাদের এক্সামটা কি পুরোপুরি অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট মোডে হবে? মানে এটা নিয়ে
হ্যাঁ,
আমরা কোনো
অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট
ক্লারিফিকেশন পাচ্ছি না।
তোমাদের ডিপার্টমেন্ট কি ডিসাইড করেছে সেটাই মেন ব্যাপার।
মানে
ডিপার্টমেন্ট কি
আমাদের
ভাবছে?
ডিপার্টমেন্ট থেকে বলা হয়েছে যে অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট হবে,
হ্যাঁ।
কিন্তু কিভাবে হবে, মানে একদিনে ওটা 24 আওয়ার্স এর অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট হবে না একেবারে সবগুলো দিয়ে যেটা আগের সেমিস্টারে হয়েছে সেরকম হবে, সেটা কিছু এখনো বলেনি।
সেটা আমার মনে হয় কনসার্ন, যদি এরকম একটা ডিসাইড হয় যে অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট হবে, তাহলে কনসার্ন টিচার আর কি এগুলো ডিসাইড করবে। সে কি ভাবছে তার উপরই আর কি মনে হয় আর কি।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা।
যে ধরো তোমার অন্যান্য টিচার যে সাবজেক্টটা নিচ্ছেন তার উপরেই ডিপেন্ড করবে কিছুটা পরে।
ওকে।
যদি অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট মোড যদি বলো আর কি। হ্যাঁ, আর এখানে তো ধরো ওপেন বুক টাইপ এক্সাম, তারপরে তুমি ভিতরে ভিতরে তোমরা কি করছো সেটা কিছু বোঝা যাবে না। হ্যাঁ, দেখছো কি করছো বা সেটা সম্ভব নয়, আমি এটা বলছি না, সেটা ঠিকও নয়। যে এর জন্য ইভালুয়েশন প্রসেসটা কি অ্যাকচুয়ালি, ধরো তোমার পুরো পার্টটাকেই পড়তে হবে, যে যা সিলেবাস আছে যা আছে, কারণ তোমার ওপেন বুক টাইপ বইয়ে অ্যাভেলেবল সবকিছু, এভরিথিং ইজ দেয়ার। অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট আমি একটা কোশ্চেন করে দেবো, সেটা তোমাদের কি ফিক্সেশন হয়েছে যে কোন ডেটে এক্সাম হবে?
স্যার আপনি থার্মোডাইনামিক্সে কিরকম পেপার করবেন তাহলে? মানে ওটা অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট করবেন আপনি থার্মো?
হ্যাঁ, যা হচ্ছে সেটাই, যদি অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট মোড হয় অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট মোড।
ওকে।
আমাদের আসলে ওইরকম কোনো ডেট বলেনি ডিপার্টমেন্ট থেকে, বা মানে কোনো রকম রুটিন যে এই দিন এইটা হবে সেটা এখনো বলেনি। তো বলেছে যে 27 তারিখ থেকে শুরু হবে। তো আমরা এই জন্য কনফিউজ যে আগের বার যেরকম আমাদের সমস্ত অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট একদিনে দিয়ে দিয়েছিল, তারপরে আমরা সেটা একটা ডেটের মধ্যে সাবমিট করেছিলাম, একটা
না,
ডেডলাইনের
এবারে
মধ্যে।
পার্টিকুলার ডেটে হবে। এবারে আমি যতখানি আমাদের মেকানিক্যাল ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং ডিপার্টমেন্টে যেটা হচ্ছে, সেখানে হচ্ছে ওই তোমাদের ওই রকম একটা ডেট স্পেসিফাই করে দেওয়া হচ্ছে যে 27 তারিখ থেকে বা কোনো একটা তারিখ থেকে 5 তারিখ এরকম সাপোজ। এবার সেখানে মেনশন করে দেওয়া হচ্ছে যে 27 তারিখে এক্সাম হবে, 28 তারিখে এক্সাম হবে, এটা মেনশন করা হচ্ছে।